The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf.
The main difference, of course, is winter and summer. In the winter, we can get around on the snow with snow machines. We can drag drills over snow trails. We can get around a lot. Certainly in Saskatchewan, it's a very wet province, very flat. So there's a lot of lakes, rivers, streams, bogs, and things like that to get over. So the winter is the easiest time to kind of move around.
All right, welcome back inside our Proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Chris Frostad. He is the CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group. And Chris, it's great to see you again. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks, Steve. Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be with you as well. And thought it'd be a really interesting conversation for you and I to have to talk about drilling. And I know we've talked about, why you drill and how you drill and ways you drill and things like that in the past, but this is more about timing and about seasons and how important it can be for a company to either drill in the winter or drill in the summer. And people might say, well, why don't you always drill in the summer? The weather's better and sometimes you can't. So there's a lot of things to talk about. So let's start first off. As far as you're concerned in the basin, talk to me a bit about splitting into summer and winter programs and why they're so different.
Right. Well, we do get we get a lot of questions about, and a lot of our peers do as well. You'll be drilling and then you'll stop for a while, and people wonder why'd you stop, particularly if you found something good, because inevitably our best holes usually are last, and then people get upset because we carry on. But the main difference, of course, is winter and summer. In the winter, we can get around on the snow with snow machines. We can drag drills over snow trails. We can get around a lot. Certainly in Saskatchewan, it's a very wet province, very flat. So there's a lot of lakes, rivers, streams, bogs, and things like that to get over. So the winter is the easiest time to kind of move around. In the summer, you can, depending again on the topography and depending on the ground conditions, in a lot of cases, you wind up having to use helicopters to get in and out. And if that's the case, you've pretty much doubled the price of your drilling. And so you want to be very careful about how you're, where you're drilling, how you're drilling, when you're drilling, and make sure that you've digested the information properly as well.
Is that, Chris, the biggest difference is just the ground conditions and how you move equipment and people around? Is that the biggest differentiator between winter and summer?
Primarily because, as you mentioned, I'd certainly much rather be up there in the summer when it's nice and warm and all. But the winter is actually the most efficient and most effective to get around. Your drills are different too. If you're using a helicopter drill, it's lighter. It has to be taken apart, put together again when you take it. So it takes a little bit more time to move around. And we've had issues with that as well when we're trying to aim a drill. If you're using a lighter drill, sometimes it will hit something that's not supposed to and head off in the wrong direction. So, but it's primarily the winter. I mean, now we've also, it's the shoulder seasons are also an issue. So there are very specific timings of going in and out. We are not allowed to be moving things around when things are melting, because that's when we will really rough up the world and the ground conditions out there. And usually we're operating close to lakes and rivers and streams. And then the same in the fall when things again are getting wet or just starting to freeze up. That'll cause issues as well. And again, because we do get in and out of a lot of these places by airplane, so there are actually reasons why we're limited to so many months in the winter and so many months in the summer to actually be out there in the field doing the drilling.
Do you guys use ice roads at that point? Is that something that you've looked at in the past for use in your particular area?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put in trails to get to where we want to be. Again, in the winter, it's a little easier because you have that buildup of snow, and so you don't have to stump everything. I mean, if you're knocking down trees or you're making a pathway, you're usually there's big boulders that you're trying to get around. There's stumps. Things like that. And again, if it's full of snow and ice and you're able to pack it down that way, it's certainly a lot easier to get in and out of.
You mentioned that you stop when the drilling stops, you release a hole, and everyone's like, "Why don't you just keep going?" But it's also the news flow as well, and there's a natural period, I think, between when drilling ends and when drilling starts, where people go, well, "Why aren't you releasing news?" And there may either not be news ready to go, or the fact that you're waiting for things to happen.
Well, they do, and I think in Saskatchewan, people typically blame the results from assays coming back in the assay labs, and I can tell you, if you've hit something ridiculously stupendous, you're going to know it out of the gate, and you're going to be able to report that. It may only come out in counts per second, or something that's not assayed yet, but that kind of information can come out immediately. If it's something that you suspect may be really, really good, the assay labs in Saskatchewan, and there's really only one that deals with radioactive material. They can do a rush and get you something in a few weeks if you really, really need it. But typically the turnaround on those labs is about 3 months. So, if you start, your expectations need to be kind of tailored to what's coming out the other end. And a lot of folks really don't want to be putting out results before they actually have them in hand and properly documented.
And Chris, does the way it work is that what you find in a summer campaign then transcend into what you do in a winter campaign and vice versa?
That absolutely, because you want to really digest all the information that's come in before you start determining where you're going to drill again, because it's not just did I see radioactivity. We get something called PIMA, which is an analysis of the alteration, and alteration is a big indication. You want to wait till those sorts of results come in. You may want to get your final assays because there's other indicator metals you're looking for as well. And it takes time. Once you've drilled a hole, to actually plot it up, look at it, really plot it up and see what it is you've done and what it looks like in connection to the other things you've drilled. So that's not something that just happens the minute the drill comes out of the ground. It does take some time for that sort of interpretive work. And again, if you're spending $200,000, $300,000 on a hole, you want to make sure you've really digested all the information you've got before you collar that drill.
And as far as you're concerned, Dorado is in your summer program now, right?
Well, that's where we are now. We're following up on our winter program. We were, and again, this is kind of the sequence of things, but it was about a year ago when we identified uranium mineralization at Dorado at our Nova zone. We got up to close to a little over 8% U3O8. We had to quit because, again, of the conditions, the summer conditions. We couldn't move any further. We went back in the winter and were able to follow up. Again, we did run into some, there was moving water where we were trying to put a drill. So it doesn't always freeze up the way you want, but we did get 5,000 meters done up during the winter, and were able to actually chase and trace that structure, that mineralization, for about 1 kilometer. And so that's what we're really trying to do now, is understand the system, where it went, and hopefully where it dropped a great big deposit of uranium. So we're up there now. We've just started in the last couple of weeks, and we'll be drilling about 3,100, 3,200 meters of drilling up until the end of August to really follow up on a lot of this work.
All right. We look forward to hearing more about it as it rolls on. Chris, thanks so much. Really good update as always, and good to see you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Chris Frostad, the CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors, or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information.